Okay, we're live. Hello, everybody.
Hello, you beautiful souls.
Nice one. Okay, yeah, we're here today, and this is the Be the Change Collective personal growth meetup chat. So, yeah, Chris, do your thing.
Talk show episode 2. Right, we did the first one about 6 months ago. And we've been running meetup groups every week since then on Zoom, which has been cool. We've had people from all over the country and from loads of different countries all over the world come on and talk about sharing ideas and learning about personal growth and becoming the best versions of themselves and how to overcome obstacles and give each other support and learn tools of how to do all those things. And currently we're doing a series on self-love, which is running every fortnight. The next one we've got is loving yourself into a better relationship, which should be next Thursday. But I think we might be doing this more often now in between, which would be cool. This is an experiment. So if you would like to have a chat with us, I think you can...
There's free open spaces available for anyone on Facebook or YouTube to be able to go on the comments of this live stream right now. And I've just put a comment there that's got a link in it for you to be able to join this chat and to jump on. So there's 3 spots left if anyone wants to join. So
yeah, considering we're doing a series on self-love at the moment, let's talk about that. We're in the first meeting we had that video from Joe Dispenza, didn't we, on unconditional love, like how to love yourself unconditionally. And it's actually a methodology of how to do that. It's not just it's not a perspective shift almost. It's actually, there's a method of things and exercises you can practice to bring yourself into that state where you have complete unconditional love for yourself. And it's all about opening the heart and living from the heart and doing everything from the heart. That chest center.
The heart in various kind of traditions and civilizations was known as the empress. And a lot of people think that it's the brain, which is the kind of intuitive center. You know, a lot of people think logically, but really it's the heart that is the compass that allows us to move forward. And it's the combination of the brain and the heart working together in synergy, which allows people to move forward, really. Yeah, it's a wonderful energy. I think what's really interesting is, let's start off with what is love, first of all? How do we define it? I mean, if we was to explain it to someone who had no concept of what it is or ever experienced it, how would you describe it?
It's interesting. There's lots of different ways of looking at this. I kind of thought that love was acceptance, like full acceptance, non-judgment. So you're not going to judge anyone for anything. You're just going to accept them completely for who they are, which I think is that's like compassion, maybe. It's a good analogy. It's a good idea of love. But then you have to look at a parent's love. And a good parent doesn't just accept their children for exactly who they are. They also judge. You have to judge your children, because you judge them against the potential of what they could be, so they then can become better people. So I think love is acceptance, judgment, and forgiveness. In a weird way, it's like a cycle. It's a cycle of, I accept you, but also you could do a bit better, but I forgive you.
Yeah, kind of like the idea that the child, we want to kind of help that child out in terms of helping it fit into the kind of societal norm of its tribe, right? Of our tribe. And that's kind of the idea. So that's a form of love. It's like, I want to help you out, so I'm going to teach you what I believe to be right from wrong.
But is that
Mm.
the best embodiment of love? I mean, it's what we've learned, right? As in like tribalism, sticking together, survival. I'm doing this for your own good, effectively. But you know, I guess through the series of workshops that we've done and discussion groups that we've had, really is that the best service that we can give to another human being, to teach them a set of parameters, the constraints and boundaries and labels for them to kind of grow into, as opposed to, you know, laying out a specific set of principles, I suppose, or ways of tapping into self, which would allow them to attune themselves. The reason why I ask what you interpret love to be is, for me personally, and I like what you said originally, Chris, about acceptance, because in Tantra, the fundamental core of it is to accept everything about yourself, because it's whole. It's part of the whole. In the same way that my background here, you've got light and you've got dark, and I'm in the middle. You know, you need both in order for a good background. No, in order for to be a whole, effectively. And I think as much as we focus on light, this side here, love, expansion from the heart, which is very, very important, I think we can't neglect what's here and what we've pushed aside, what we've been told potentially to be pushed aside by parents through the act of what they think is love, through society, through teachers, through parents. So you need to create space, and you need to deal with past trauma and past conditioning, as well as moving in a direction of positivity and light and expansion, which is what love is, in my opinion.
So for that to happen, you kind of, well, first of all, it's like you have the yin yang, so it's like light and dark, those two things. But then you have non-duality, which is like the idea of transcendence that transcends love and hate, like good and evil, like that your awareness, your self, your pure awareness doesn't live in either good or bad, or love or hate. It just is, and it just is aware of everything. So it's kind of that transcendent. So that's kind of where you go when you meditate, is like you're not in that dualistic state anymore. But then also to be able to look into the dark, to be able to bring those things out into the light, you kind of you have to be judging yourself in a way, because you're judging yourself against the potential of what you could be. And so like I don't want to like bring in like I don't love to reference religion all the time, but it's just a great example. I think when I talk about like parents' love, if you think about God the Father, who is the father of mankind, say the most iconic parent, God is the eternal judge, right? So he is there to judge you, but he also loves you and will forgive you. So
you just say that, because we was having a discussion just before we came on air about the intertwining of astrology and spirituality, and you could equate Saturn to be what you would say is the father figure, the grandfather figure, to be God. And it's kind of like that energy where it's like, no matter what you name that universe, source, light, creation, essentially what it's asking of you is, I'm doing this for your own good. And so essentially there are certain connotations when it comes to the word judge, right? I mean, we have certain attachments and feelings towards that. Or really what it's asking you to do maybe is to just look again, you know, that introspection, and to help you move forward through different ways of presenting that to you, whether that's Saturn, whether that's God, whether that's the universe, whether that's your higher self asking that of you, and just gently reminding of you, is asking you to look within and just check in with yourself every now and again, you know.
How I see this as well, something that I'd like to add is like it's the foundation we have, the kind of the morals that we choose to adopt within ourselves, and then we project those morals onto our children, right? When we're bringing them up and we're raising them and trying to get them to fit in, or help them out in that way, so that they can have perhaps an easier time at integrating into society. But talking about the foundation of what's right and wrong in that regard, we can look, for example, say we're looking to Saturn as a masculine energy, as a father energy, and that's like the common stereotype, isn't it? That Saturn represents the father, is a masculine planet. But some of my understanding, some of the things that I've learned over time has suggested that actually Saturnia is actually a feminine planet, which is Capricorn, which is actually a feminine sign as well. So that made sense to me. But the idea is that Saturnia was actually, or Saturn herself was actually essentially a goddess, and through the kind of biblical distortions throughout the past couple of millennia, the idea of Saturn basically got switched on her head, and kind of inverted, like everything else has been, like for example the pentagram inverted on its head to put spirituality at the bottom and the material and everything else at the top. It's the same with Saturn. It's like the divine feminine goddess of a planet who used to be the sun of our solar system, is actually been demonized and made to look like the devil, because everyone equates Satan and Saturn, and well, many people do, and it's the foundation of how we raise our children and what we believe to be right and wrong isn't always objectively right or wrong. But then
True.
it's very
Yeah. I mean, you can judge your kids for things that you are conditioned to believe is right or wrong. Like, you need to study hard because I want you to go to college, because you need to go to college so you can get a good degree and get a well-paying job. It's like not necessarily the only way to do something, but I think it's hard, isn't it, to realize what love is, because what we're doing is talking about how you perceive another person and how you act towards them. So it's like your perception and your action, which is weird because we think of love as a feeling, but what we're talking about is how we're perceiving something and acting towards it. But I guess you obviously do feel love as well. So it's very different. Like if we're talking about self-love here, so we're accepting ourselves. We have to accept ourselves in our entirety, and love ourselves for who we are. But then there is that aspect of love that is that judgmental side of it, thinking, I want the best for you, because you don't want necessarily, you're not going to go to someone that you don't know or don't love and say, what are you doing? You're not living up to your potential. There's too much potential in life for you, and I'm upset that you're not doing it. You're not fulfilling your potential.
It's interesting you should say that, because I actually believe, yes, there's good intention behind that, but I also believe that it's reflective of your own state of being. For example, if you reach out to someone, even if it's someone very close to you, and you say, what are you doing? You have so much more potential. There's a little bit of that, which is also speaking to you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we have to recognize that as well. And it's the thing about, this is how I would talk about self-love.
But would you do that to someone if you didn't love them?
No, absolutely. I believe there is a portion of that which does come from good intention, but there's also a small portion of that which is reflective of your inner state. Because sometimes if you've been through that journey yourself, where you're going through challenge, adversity, and come out the other side and grown from it, then you understand that it's something that individual needs to take, regardless of whether you push them or not, because the universe will get them to that point. And so I believe it's well intentioned, but it can also, everything happens for a reason effectively. But going back to self-love, the way I describe self-love or love is if someone was a parent, or imagine someone that you love, like your sibling when they were born, or your partner, or the birth of your child, in those moments which really connect you to the heart source. And you imagine that person, whether they're a child or whether they're an adult, in person, and how you would treat them, what feelings you have towards them, how you would go out of your way to make them happy, or to make sure they have everything they need. And then reflect that inwards and ask yourself if you do that for yourself. Do you love yourself as much as you love your wife or your child or your sibling? Do you? Because essentially, what you are inwardly projecting and how you treat yourself is effectively like how you treat your inner child, how you treat your inner self. If you are feeding yourself images of judgment, pressure, you're not good enough, you don't look a certain way, etc. Imagine saying that to your child and ask yourself, would you continue to do that to yourself if that was your child?
Yeah, it's that balance, isn't it? Like, because if you're all judgment and no acceptance and forgiveness, then it's not going to be a very loving experience for anyone. But if you're also all just acceptance, it's potentially not the most natural and like thriving relationship that it could be as well. As far as it comes with children, anyway. I mean, in a relationship, I think that you're more peers, aren't you? Like you're on the same level. Not one of you can't be higher, but when you have a child, you are the parent, you're their mentor in a way. And I like the fact that I like the idea that if you are someone's mentor, you don't always have to the master or the mentor that you manifest in life can be a higher standard or a higher ideal than your own being, if that makes sense. And I think it should be that way as well. Like when you manifest yourself as a mentor or a parent, you should manifest the highest ideal you can be. And you see like people like monks and people like this and they share so much good information, and when they're a mentor, they may be a high holding themselves at such a higher standard to what they actually hold themselves to. And you can get this with like a lot of parents, I think, or people's heroes. People say never meet your heroes because they're not as high as you perceive them to be. So if someone's mentoring you, they're mentoring you to be the best you can be, not the best they are.
Yeah, but Chris, imagine this, right? So you have mentors and you have idols that you look up to. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
And imagine so when you met them, they didn't meet your expectations, right? Because you imposed that, you projected that onto that individual. What if your hero was yourself? What if you was able to connect back to a time when you were incarnating into this body and remembering all of the journeys that you've been on prior to this experience? Wouldn't that make you your own hero?
Maybe, but maybe I would also see all the things I haven't done so well, or the bad things I've done.
There's no good or bad. There's no judgment. There is no, and this is going to sound controversial, and this is where we go. It's nothing to do with religion or anything like that. But what I would say is there is no good or bad inherently. It's just perception.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. I used to think like that as well, to be fair, until I changed the way I looked at things a bit more.
We've all been here before. Not in a specific context. I was probably in a different body. You was in a different, we're in different parts of the world maybe, but we've incarnated more than once, it's fair to say. And even in astrology, we look at north and south nodes. You have jumped through time and space, been in different civilizations, lived in different life experiences. You may have done things which you may perceive in this shell to being bad, but effectively, you have been chosen to live the human experience and to learn everything about that. And that's a beautiful gift. It's a very special gift. So a lot of times when people think badly of themselves, why do I have this body? Why was I given this? Why can't I pull myself together? Why, etc., right? If you just completely spin on its head and go, you have been given the golden ticket to be a human in this time and age when there's so much change, there's so much growth, you have been specifically chosen to be in this day and age. What a gift that is, and what a gift you are to each and every one of us. You know, very grateful for you and everyone to be here and sharing that experience. We're all in this together. And so when one of us feels low and feels like they're judging themselves, it's about helping people feel that reconnect to source, reconnect to who they are, reconnect to how special they are. And when they realize how special they are, then your perspective changes. Does it really matter if your kid is being disruptive at school? What is the underlying cause? What is the root? Instead of berating them and telling them you should follow a different life path, and this is how I'm going to tell you how to do it. Ask you, what is wrong? What is wrong? What could be wrong that is upsetting in that way?
Yeah, it's that judgment and forgiveness mixed into one kind of thing. Zach, you look like you want to say something.
There's a few things. My granddad, it was funny, we're talking about this, like acceptance and love, for example. Like my granddad and I have had a bit of an exchange. It's a bit of a public thing. Well, it's quite talking about it quite publicly like this, but basically he kind of said that, I'm going to strike you out of my will if you don't get the vaccination, and also invest how I invest. So I was like, okay, now that's not acceptance, that's judgment. And yeah, that's not really it. It's like, it's coming back to that perception. As far as he's concerned, he wants what's best for me, and I get that and I appreciate that. But what's really best for me is what is best for me. It's not what he thinks is best for me. So the one thing I've found is it's like you were saying, oh, I can look back on my past when I can see myself as my own hero, and I can see all the bad stuff I did along my hero's journey, but I can also see all the good stuff I did. And then it all comes down to a choice. And we always have that choice of we can choose to observe the lack or we can observe the positive. And for me, and I know it's the same for you, I know it's the same for everybody, pretty much everyone listening to this right now, is like, oh yeah, we can look at the lack and we can absorb the lessons from it. And then from then on, we can just choose love and the appreciation. And with that appreciation, many people here have probably heard of Teal Swan, right? She's on YouTube, does many different types of videos around all kinds of stuff. But one line that she's said about many times, it's like a good barometer. Like when you've got a decision to make in your life, or your, for example, you need to teach your child something important, like a certain life lesson. They've just done something that perhaps is not really ideally appropriate by your own subjective standards, and you feel like, I need to do something. So the question to ask oneself is, and this is what Teal Swan teaches, is what would someone who loves themselves do? And I think that's quite powerful. So it's like, right, I need to tell my child that there's something wrong with his actions, for example. And I'd ask myself, what would someone who loves themselves do? Well, if that child is also me, and I love myself, so I thus love the child, I'm not going to be too nasty to the child. I'm just going to do my best to not traumatize it, or so yeah, that's what I had to really say.
Have you ever done that to yourself? I mean,
yeah, I think people do that to themselves. I wanted to like, because you were talking about like, you could say you looked at all your journey, right, and all the good things you've done, all the bad things you've done, and I wanted to like how that relates to being like a parent who loves someone, or a mentor who loves an apprentice and wants to guide them to being their best version of themselves. It's like when someone is manifesting their mentor or their master, they are manifesting all the good without any bad. I'm not saying that person has never, so they're manifesting a level of mentorship that is above even themselves. And I think that's how it should be. Like we should try and hold our children to a higher standard than even we hold ourselves to. Like we should try and hold ourselves to that standard, but it doesn't always work like that. And I think when all personal development programs start by conceptualize your ideal self, basically. Like you need to know not what you don't want, but what you want your life to be about, who you want to be. And once you do that, you can then you're comparing yourself to that person and saying, okay, how can I change to be that person then? And then you're conceptualizing a plan to how to get there. So what you're actually doing is judging yourself against something higher than yourself. And that's like Jesus Christ from the Bible. We all know him is he is the ultimate ideal. And also that's why he is the ultimate judge. Like at the end of the Bible in Revelation, he comes back with a sword and like wipes everyone out because then none of them are good enough, because you have to compare yourself to him who is the perfect being, right? Because he is the ultimate ideal. So,
Yeah.
and
I would say this is that I understand why people would think that way and seek guidance in that particular way. But there is the only comparison that you should ever make is to your higher self, like, to yourself. Is like, and what I was going to say before is like, say for example, you're spinning out, right? You feel pressure, you feel nervousness or whatever, you feel like you got to perform, etc. I've got this laser beam that's going over my eye, which is really annoying me.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
it's
like,
yeah,
you got this pressure to perform or whatever.
that's the yin coming in, or the light.
Have you ever sat with yourself and just said, hey, what's the matter? What's wrong? Hey, what's going on here? Are you okay? Right? And holding yourself in that particular way. And it may sound like an alien concept, but essentially in the same way that we try and support other people, do we try and do that for ourselves? And I actually find it, it builds up a really good, I'm not talking about like having voices in your head, but a really good relationship and dialogue with self, as in like, in the same way that I say to my loved ones, whatever happens, I love you and I back you. And if you ever feel like you need support and there's no one around, I will be there. No, guaranteed. And I do you know what? It made me realize that actually reflect that inwards. Make that a promise to yourself as well. As in, no matter what we go through, no matter what we, self, whole, all of us go through, I will be there for you. We'll stand strong. We'll be there together. And I think far too often that's neglected, because if you're trying to compare yourself, Chris, to someone, there'll always be someone. Once you believe you're at this level, there'll be another person, and effectively you're chasing something where true happiness and true love is relationship with self, and understanding that there's that
balance, isn't there?
Yeah, your goal here is just simply to be you.
And I think like if you were just to fully accept yourself, you're transcending that duality, so I think that is the most important part, and that's really what you're doing in meditation or any other spiritual endeavor. Really is like just completely accepting yourself in that moment for exactly who you are, everything about yourself. So I think that like if all you did was judge yourself all the time, it wouldn't be great. And if all you did was accept yourself, that would be beautiful, amazing, But there's the seed of improvement kind of thing. And if you had a mentor, like a master, right, a yogi, like teaching, like the master from Kung Fu Panda, say, like a master needs to be that strict person, like again, you're not doing it right again. But at the end of the day, when you're tired and you're weary and you're feeling downhearted because you're not getting it right, they also need to be there to accept you and forgive you and come to you and say, it's okay, you're doing a great job.
It's alignment, I feel. Yeah. Like essentially you do something because you want to do it, not because you feel like you have to do it or you're told to do it. That's the principle of it all. For example, maybe a lot of people are familiar with David Goggins.
Heard the name.
I find him really, really inspirational. If you haven't read his autobiography or his story, I really recommend you find him on YouTube. He was an image, a man who, at a young age, was very unhappy with his life, and he could easily blame it on a multitude of factors. He would experience a lot of racial abuse back in his time when he was growing up. and he had a lot of dysfunction in his family, as he puts it. And he could easily say that that is why he was in the situation he was, and that could perpetuate, my life is going to be like this because of what happened when I grew up in his childhood and his livelihood. And he found himself sitting on a couch, and he's a tall man, but he was very overweight. He was like 300 something pounds, and his living was pest control, which he felt that he could do better. He wanted to do more. That wasn't his life calling. And then he switched on the TV and he was watching Marines and the process to become a Marine and the test, etc., and the ringing of the bell. And on a whim, it aligned for him. He felt that this was alignment for him. He felt that there was something, a challenge to him to better himself. And it wasn't someone telling him, you should get up with your big ass and go do that, right? Or, be like this. This is the model of being a man. This is the epitome of masculinity. It was alignment within. He saw that, it resonated, he connected, and that's all of the energy that he needed. It gave him a powerhouse, because the next day he started training for a marathon. He ran a marathon where he broke most of his bones. He had to go to hospital, but he would not quit. He just would not quit. And some say, well, he's a very special man. Yes, in many ways he is. He has a very strong mental aptitude. What I also say, though, is he has resonance. So find your resonance, find your purpose, find what gives you passion and drive, and then it doesn't become work. It's not punishment. It's not judgment. It's congruence, and it flows, and you're in harmony, and it fosters love, because you're here. You're doing what you're here to do, what you want to do. So really, it's about tuning in. Stop comparing yourself. Stop taking on board what other people say you should do. Tune in to your heart and tune into self. Find what you are here to do and what you want to do, and propel yourself forward.
And actually take the time to do that as well, because that's personally for me right now, that's a big deal. It's like kind of going through this whole, just like, I can focus on this project. I've got this opportunity presenting itself, another one here, and it's like all this different stuff I could do. Now, what am I really being called to do? So yeah, it's a case of me actually meditating and actually doing the meditating consistently, and not just 15-minute nap every now and again.
But you're on the right track. You see how your alignment with this kind of way of thinking, it's like, this is the areas that I'd like to explore, and it's presenting you with your opportunities to do that. It's presenting you, so it's coming into harmony, and now you can refine that even more. Maybe you might be like, well, this is actually what I love to do, and so I'm going to focus my energy here.
Yeah, that's it. That's wonderful stuff. Hiya, Julie. Hiya, Suzanne. Hiya, Carlitos. And hiya, Akram. Some of you are probably gone now, but just wanted to say hi. Thanks for your comments, guys.
Thank you for interacting. If you've got any questions about anything, then let us know, please. Yeah, or any comments. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Much appreciation. And again, feel free to jump in on this stream. I don't think it's...
The link's in the comments, I think. It's the first comment.
It is indeed. Yeah, it's still there. Yeah. But yeah, there we go. So yeah. Comment.
So it's Earth Day. I didn't know it was Earth Day.
Can you put the names up there again? Oh.
Do we have a thing for that?
Yeah, it's International Earth Day. I think most of these people are probably from the States. So I think Earth Day is a bigger thing in the States than it is in England or the United Kingdom, shall I say.
Quite right.
Yeah. So happy Earth Day, everyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm all for it. I just didn't know it. I understand that there are days when we switch our lights off in solidarity. And I wish they do that with the street lights as well. If they just switch the street lights off even for a moment, so I can see the stars. But yeah, it is. I don't know. Chris, the other day you were saying a phrase, "as above, so below."
I said that. Oh, cool.
I think you were
I like that phrase. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot. As above, so below, and it's. I guess it's what it's referencing is the universe and the stars and Earth, as above, so below. And I was watching a very interesting documentary on how ancient structures we're trying to act as antennae and grounding to bring that energy as above, so below. And I was having a discussion a little earlier with a group of friends, and it was like, what if we extrapolate that even further, as in, as above being what we conceive the external, which is the universe, what we conceive to be the external. So below, which is ourselves, we're the same. We're whole. We're two parts of the whole, the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we talk about self-love, personal development, I still very much believe that we are co-creators. I mean, you mentioned this a few times. And a lot of people may say to me, that's rubbish. You know, how can I be a co-creator? All I do is, you know, they mess things up or things don't go their way, etc., etc. Guess what? You're a brilliant co-creator, because your mindset and your intention is creating that exact same tableau that you've been perpetuating all this time. That's what you're radiating.
Mm-hmm.
So with your focus and your intention on that particular area, whether you want it or not, you are co-creating with the universe. The universe is like, well, if that's what you want, then I guess I'll give you that, right? And so all it takes is harmonization, like I say before, but also understanding that you have the power to be able to create in any way, shape, or form that you want. And if only you knew it, and you really knew it and believed in it, and I guess for a lot of people that means, oh, well, prove it, show it to me, right? But if you had been shown it, and you had seen it, and you had experienced it, and your eyes had been opened, and your heart had been expanded as well to that experience, what would you do? What would you go out and create if you knew that you could create anything, and you had that power to do that as much as you have the power to create crap things for yourself? How would you live your life differently?
That's it. Once the box has been opened, there's no going back. It's like you can't unawaken someone. Well, actually, yeah, you can.
I think you can slowly go back to sleep if you've been through a process that's kind of woken you up, and you've been listening and reading and watching and meditating, and you've got to a level. If once you kind of stop doing all that for long enough and just go back into conditioned society, I think you can go back to sleep to a certain degree. Yeah.
But then, absolutely, I agree. But then also, there's also the understanding that we never actually spiritually regress. We're always moving forwards. So,
Yeah. I think, yeah. But then also, once like people talk about like ignorant, well, the phrase "ignorance is bliss," and it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of true, but it's also not true. Do you ever think there's different levels of awakening? I've got some ideas about awakening.
Well, should we take it in turns?
Go you. If there's different levels, I mean, do we think there's different levels of awakening?
Do you think there is?
I think awakening, and I think maybe not different levels, but there's different sort of areas of awakening, and I think enlightenment transcends them all. Enlightenment is another level. You're not waking up anymore, you're becoming enlightened. It's rising up above everything.
How do you know when you're enlightened, Chris?
How do you know when you're enlightened? I don't know. That is a pretty loaded question, Mia. And for me to say that I know that would maybe mean that I'm not very enlightened. So yes, I think it's finding yourself again and again.
Yeah. I agree with Julie. I think it's stages. I just fascinated by the thing that people go, we have the story of Buddha and various different accounts throughout the ages. But again, it comes back to the phrase, those who know don't speak, and those who speak don't know. And the reason I say that is because
the truest word is that not spoken.
Yeah, I think it's about balance. When you come into equilibrium and balance and harmony and whole oneness. And for me personally, I believe every human being, that journey is bringing this symbol here, the prayer over the heart, is the one heart. It's bringing together the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And once you have unity and bring it together in the heart center, to me, that's embodiment of the human essence. And that is transcending, because it takes a lot to overcome the hurdles of what it is to be man, woman, in between, and all that kind of great stuff, and all the parameters that various influences places on the individual. Once you can transcend that and come into a oneness with self and know thyself, that is what I would interpret to be awakening. And there's stages. So when Judy, you asked at different levels, I think so, because it's a journey of discovery, a journey of self, a journey of acceptance, and a journey of coming together and knowing what that looks like. Because it's a beautiful thing to start to get to know yourself if you just allow yourself. A lot of people might go, well, I do know myself. I like football, I like this and this. Like it's that self-discovery. It's such a beautiful, beautiful journey to go on, a gift to yourself, to get to know yourself. And if you're afraid to do so, on some level, you're afraid to go within and see and open those doors that you left buried and face that pain that you left in childhood. It's there to be cleared. And it's like, sit with yourself. I will support you. I love you. We will do this together. Sorry, Zach, I didn't mean to.
We're keeping you up, mate.
I've been yawning all day. I've been flat out, very, very busy today. So sorry, my apologies.
Sometimes it's just when you're not breathing. It's like
oxygen.
I think yawning.
It's
actually your body needs more oxygen. Yeah. So 100%. Okay. All right. Yeah. Great explanation. What's your take on that then, Zach?
Yeah. So really good explanation, Mia. It's kind of like the whole the universe getting to know itself a little bit more each time. And I suppose ultimately that is what awakening and enlightenment is, coming to get to know yourself on the deepest level possible. So do I think there's different levels of awakening? Yes, I certainly do. But also I quite like how you put it, Chris, that there's kind of like different angles of approaching it. And then also I agree that the ultimate form of awakening is like kind of spiritual enlightenment. At least that's one version. But to me, it's like, for example, if we take Earth and we got the kind of the matrix of the old world management team that's still pretty active in a way, like how someone can take their ego from being completely confined within the box that is presented to us when we're incarnate here and we grow up in a society such as here in England. It comes to this point where we can start to. I just remember watching like films like Zeitgeist and like other and like 9/11 stuff. This was like 10, 12 years ago, and it was like, oh wow, this it just completely. It's like the box that we put ourselves in starts getting a little bit bigger and bigger each time.
You're waking up to the truth.
Yeah, that's it. But then. There's also that idea of, oh, that's a certain kind of awakening, like state, is that whole like, oh, shadow government kind of like extraterrestrials, all that interesting stuff. But then you've got the spirituality, and then you've got the blending in between the two of these things, and where they meet in the middle that's the real kind of, that's what I see as kind of awakening, and all the different levels is like 9/11 inside job, like God is your best friend, kind of, and everything in between. So,
yeah, me and God are buddies. We get well back.
Yeah.
Have you ever met someone?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna give my explanation of what I think. Yeah. So I think you both. I think Mia, to me, kind of explained enlightenment. Because I see kind of awakening and enlightenment as different things. I think there's a lot of wokeness going around, which is very different to being enlightened. I'm not judging anyone, but there's like this woke. Woke is also a word that's kind of been conspiracized in a way. But I think like awakening is like what you said, Zach, is like when you wake up, you're awakening, you wake up to the truth. Whether it's good or bad, you're waking up, you're coming out of a sleep because before you're awake, you're asleep, aren't you? So you don't know the truth when you're asleep, and you have to wake up to know the truth. And you know the truth about the government and all the terrible things that have happened in the world, and all the terrible things that people can do to one another, you know, and the terrible things that you could potentially do if you're in the right situation, but also all the good that people do, and all the good things that you could do if you were in the right situation, and if you went that way, you know. So for me, awakening at first was waking up to the potential I had, because someone told me you don't have to go down this road. You can conceptualize an idea of who you want to be in your mind, and you'll attract it. And I was like, whoa. I woke up to the idea of what was possible to me, and it was very positive, and it blew me away. And then later on, I started having an awakening about more negative things, which made me think, like, I woke up, I ended up waking up to the truth. And I'm referencing the Bible again, but like Adam and Eve, when they're in the Garden of Eden, they're ignorant, right? Ignorance is bliss. They don't know the truth. They don't know anything. They're asleep, but they're also happy because ignorance is bliss. And then the snake says, do you want to know the truth? And they say, yeah, I want to know the truth. And it tells them the truth of good and evil, and their eyes are opened and they can see. But they're not enlightened. That's not enlightenment to me. I think enlightenment is, the rest of the Bible then is about getting back to that state of bliss through enlightenment. So it's not ignorance is bliss, it's enlightenment is bliss.
It's very interesting that you mentioned Adam and Eve, because Adam wasn't so ignorant when Eve came into the picture. I mean, there were various different scriptures, but there was, Eve wasn't the first woman. And
Adam.
No, but what I mean is, there's different layers. Okay, so you talk about truth, find awakening to the truth, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same thing, right? Let's say I told you, Chris, that we lived in a world full of jelly beans, that you've been lied to, that this is a sham, there is no government, they're just, something replacing the narrative that you've put into for the external, right?
I like the jelly bean narrative.
Yeah, it's pretty tasty, right? but I think the crux of it is do you know the truth of yourself? That's where it really matters, right? Because the world around you could change countless times. It could evolve, planets could die and be born, dinosaurs, meteorites, etc. But do you know the truth of you? And do you know the truth of where you came from, of what you are capable of? The
truth of who you really are.
Yeah, that's
who you
the
really
goal.
are. Yeah.
That's the goal. Not like, well, to me, anyway.
So that's awakening for me. Once you know that that's possible, that's an awakening. But becoming that person of who you truly are, that enlightened being, that is enlightenment for me. That's how I see that.
If someone said to you, you're enlightened, Chris, what would you say back? I say, Chris, you're enlightened. You're awakened. You're an awakened being. What would you say to me?
I probably wouldn't say anything.
You would have no response.
I would probably just smile.
You're not smiling now.
Yeah, but this is an example, because maybe I'm not as enlightened as I believe I could be, which is probably true.
So you have no response to that whatsoever?
If someone came to me and said, you're enlightened,
nothing, no chain reaction within you.
I don't think that's anyone can say that to anyone else.
Interesting. Zach?
I would say that as a collective, humanity is very, very far away from spiritual perfection.
No, but how would you,
like that.
If I said to you, Zach, you are enlightened.
Is that like a blessing? Like blessing, enlightenment?
No, I believe you're an enlightened human. Enlightenment. What would you say to me?
By my own definition, I would say, oh gosh, I quite like, just to kind of, because we all we've got is vocabulary, right? We've only got, and that's right, it's no good, but we've got to make the most of it. So I like how Chris put it as like awakening and enlightenment. Like, I'd say I'm awakened and I'm walking my own path of enlightenment. That's how I put it, but I wouldn't necessarily say I'm enlightened myself.
Yes, Julie.
Yeah. I'd say
Yes.
thank you. Also,
That's what I
but
wanted to hear.
Get
thank
in,
you,
Julie.
Julie.
Get in,
Julie.
Julie.
But
Oh,
also,
sorry, Julie. No,
yeah,
actual
I-
Julie. Sorry, I thought you were just calling me Julie.
I also think that who says it's a compliment? Who says it's something you would say thank you to? And
No,
is it
this-
an enlightened thing to say thank you to that?
No, but this is it, right? It's about resonance. Because you saying, for example, Chris, I wanted to know your emotion book because I want to see if you're repelling that energy. If I'm saying to you, I'm giving you the energy of enlightenment and sending it your way, I believe you're an enlightened being. I'm channeling that to you. And you meet it with resistance. Oh, I'm not enlightenment. Thanks, but anyway, or whatever, right?
No,
Or
yeah, I wouldn't say
and
that. I wouldn't be like, oh no, thank you. Oh,
it's
no,
not
I'm
resonant.
sure.
Well, no,
Yeah.
thank you. But there's an awkwardness, right? It's like, whoa, am I enlightened? Can I give myself that title?
Oh,
Is it ego?
I don't think. I would say my response would be one of the most enlightened responses. Like, what can you say to that? If someone's an enlightened being and you go to them and say, "You're enlightened, well done."
Kind of. Like if I said you, Chris, you're an enlightened being, it's like, thank you. I resonate and I harmonize with that energy, and I want to bring that into my life, whether I believe or not. I want to that's magnetism. It's like it's the same principle as if someone out there, right, had a success. They came to you and said, Chris, they've won $1 million, right? They've made $1 million, and if you deep inside go, bollocks, why does that person and you're not doing this? You're pushing that energy away. Whereas if you celebrate with that person, you're celebrating that energy and you welcoming that into your own sphere.
Yeah, I don't think if I went to someone who was enlightened, they went to a guru and said, "You're enlightened," I don't think they would say anything. That's my response. I think they would just smile. I don't think they'd say thank you. I don't think they'd say much at all. Really, I would say they might even ask me what enlightenment is in that situation. I'd probably guess that would be their response. If you went to Buddha and said, "You are enlightened," he'd probably say, "What is enlightenment?" And then that's what you asked me a minute ago, and I'd be like, "I'm off."
You might just say, "Pass me the soul," Yeah. As in, like, it's not even a comment. Like, this is the thing. I think this was Buddha saying this. I think he said something like, when people reach enlightenment, what do they do now? And he goes, I think he just lives a normal life. Like, he just lives a normal life. Like, he goes, "Oh, Chris, you're enlightened. Thank you. Now you have to kiss my feet." Well, it's not like that. You're not. You're opening up doors within self. You understand self, and from there your perception changes and you live life differently. But I mean, essentially, you're still going to have to go to the toilet. You're still going to have to sleep. You're still going to have to do. You're a human being. It's just realizing what it is to be a human. So honestly, can you say that you know that?
What it is to be accepting myself
to be a human being. I mean, there's no manual. Like, when we were born in this world, there's no like, "Here, welcome to Earth. Here's what it is to be human. If you pass X, Y, and Z, you've successfully completed planet Earth, and you're now an official human representative." There's no manual, right? We're all making this up as we go. We may think that there's societal rules, but someone made that up, and those change all the bleeding time. So there's no real reference point. So really, it's a case of, do you know what it is to be human? All that there is, all of the infinite possibility and potential, and the beautiful intricacies of being a human. Do we know that? I think that's why are we here? Maybe it is to learn about what it is to be a human.
Situations still having a knife to the face. What do you do to keep your vision? Okay. Can I just? I think we will never know what it is to be human, because that's an ongoing discovery, and that's what makes life so interesting as well. It's this beautiful, amazing adventure that we never know where it's going to lead. And if we had all the answers, then we've come here for the answers, and we're never going to get them all, though, because if we had them all, we wouldn't be here. Maybe one day we will have all the answers, and then we will just cease to exist. We'll just be like complete, and we will all just turn to dust or like magic sprinkles. But or what do you say? Jelly beans? Like we'll
jelly
just turn into jelly beans. Situations happen in life that you have to face. What do you do to keep your vibration high. I have then got a question, an answer. I've got an idea that we talked about. I'm just going to say quickly. I think like once you start like raising your vibration, so your vibration's here, and it's like envy, jealousy, hate, lots of negativity. You don't really like what's going on, and you start meditating. You start doing spiritual exercises, and you're going through your day, and there's a blip, and that's when you're meditating. It goes up to that joy, peace, love blip. And then the next day it's blip, and then it carries on a little bit longer after your meditation. And you keep doing this and keep doing this until your baseline actually starts to raise up to that point of joy, love, peace. And when you encounter these situations, because we're always going to face them, your frequency is going to dive. It's going to go down into that area. But as long as your baseline where you live is still in that place, then that's okay, because there's always going to be detours. There's always going to be things coming your way. But as long as your baseline is in, once you do the work for long enough, you bring yourself up. So after all that stuff finishes, the place you go, your home, is that higher vibration, is that love. It's not like you're coming out of that in a period of time to find high vibration. It's actually things pulling you down for a while, but then you're going back to it.
Yeah, I like that, Chris. And I guess the way I would see it is see it as challenge, but see it as an opportunity to grow. And in hindsight, see it as a gift. Because
that's beautiful.
Gives you an opportunity to grow, to get to know yourself better, to break through some of the barriers that you may have had. And it's a gift, essentially. I know in the moment it may seem like it's something different, but if you see it as such, and it goes back to everything I say, which is about perspective. You know, there could be two individuals looking at the same situation. One person may see it as difficult and want to run for the hills for it, and the second person might go running with arms out, embracing it, because they know that this is going to take them to another stage of their own personal growth. And they're like, thank you for giving me this opportunity to, accepting it for what it is. It's not asking for these, necessary things that happen, but it's accepting that when it is coming your way, it's for your higher self's good. And so when you approach it from that point of view, it's an understanding and a new perspective that perhaps you can have, which might help to anchor you, might help to give you perspective. And when it gets really, really dark, you can really just tune in with yourself and say, hey, we've got this. We've got this. We will come out of this stronger.
I completely agree. And I second with, for example, Mia, basically appreciating the challenges with the good times as well. And that keeps our vibration high, just through that act of appreciation, even on a daily basis. And then I second Chris as well, basically saying that using meditation to kind of keep our vibration high and keep our baseline up throughout the day and throughout consecutive days as well. So when those challenging times do come, we've meditated that day and we've had a challenging time, we're feeling rough. But then through the consistency of the meditation, it's not going to affect us as much. But I would also kind of add to the meditation the love energy cultivation. I kind of feel like a broken record, and I haven't even started my kind of career yet, I suppose. But it's keeping that love fuel tank topped up, that love energy tank topped up on a daily basis. With that meditation, we'll just keep it will just kind of the harsh times still come, the heavy emotions still come, it still hurts, but with the love energy, it will just allow, rather than staying in that lack and that pain and for longer than necessary, you can choose love and just rise back out of it in a matter of minutes.
Totally.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
One
last thing I would say, I've got to go in a sec, but one last thing I would say is once you've got that up to that level, it's that detachment, not being so attached to situations, and that having an underlying faith that everything's always going to work out. And if you just if something's going, like if you're facing a challenge, say like I'm not even worried about it because I know it's going to work out. And but having that much faith, and that comes from an understanding and a perception of how life works for me. That's how I feel like I've got to that point.
I agree.
I've got to go, guys. 8 o'clock now. But thank you, everyone, for coming on the stream. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Mia. I'm just going to leave. You can carry on with this.
Ciao now.
I've just shared this out, but I love you guys.
Okay, cool.
Bye.
Love you too. Take care. Bye for now. Cool.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, just one last thing is it's about having conviction, belief, and faith, which is what Chris was saying. Essentially, there are times in people's lives when they may be told that they're a certain thing. You know, you are not going to make it. You are not going to make it unless you do this. You're not going to make it unless you listen to me, right? Like, don't listen to your own inner voice. Listen to me. Because if you don't, you won't make it, right?
You won't get my will.
Exactly. Yeah, all those kind of things, right? And it's to do with yourself, your own development, your growth. And there's always that element of needing security, wanting happiness, safety. And so there is maybe a part of you or groups of people that will go, okay, because I don't want to take responsibility, which is what we talked about earlier, or because I fear that element of the unknown, they will choose to follow the direction of another human being. They give their power to someone else. And I think what it is about reclaiming that power. And it's realizing that have conviction and faith and belief in self to be able to manifest and to be the co-creator. And whether that is the case of you won't get a better job, you won't amount to much, etc., or whether it's simply a case of you won't get better, you know, health-wise, unless you follow my instructions, like doctors and medical profession stuff. You have to follow your own judgment and your own intuition and allow your inner voice to start speaking to you. I'm not saying disregard other people's opinions, but I'm saying have informed decisions, you know, but you making decisions from the heart as opposed to being led through fear. So it's the same kind of, it's a polarity, love and fear, same energy, but which energy do you gravitate towards? You know, let love be your guide as opposed to fear, which if we really looked at it, a lot of people are probably living from fear.
Yeah, that's it. Even though there is some value in the fear, as in it can be a good teacher, it's all it's ever really going to be doing is pushing us and slingshotting us back into love, right? So, yeah, there's no matter how far we go into fear, eventually it will push us past the other and back out the other way. So,
I think what we can never do is just is just be the best version of, be authentic to yourself.
totally.
That's really, you know, if you want to figure out why am I here, what do I need to do, etc., just be authentic to yourself, because I guarantee you that's going to be a jack in the box experience where you open that box and you're like, whoa, all this stuff has come out, and am I ready to deal with all of that stuff? You know,
Yeah.
What are your deepest, darkest desires? Why are they deepest, darkest desires? What are your dreams that you feel are unattainable? Why are they unattainable? And why are they your dreams? You know, this is it's a treasure trove waiting to be found. You know, we can just coast through life, and I mean coast through life, by living in this, you know, muddy dimensional waters where we think, you know, I've got a job, I've got a family, and I love them very much. I get to do certain things, and I'm very grateful for what I have. But if you know you're playing it small
And living in determinism.
Yeah, then really go get it. You know, be all that you are. Don't push anything aside from you. If I tell you that you can't wear that shirt, that color shirt, Zach, you push back and tell me that you can because you like it.
Yeah, that's it. It's like a family member tells me, "Oh, you're not gonna you're not gonna, if you don't get the vaccine, then there's going to be consequences." It's like, yeah, I've got to do it because it's right for me.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for coming. Lots of love to you as well.
Best wishes to you, Julie. Thank you, and much love to you as well. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day. So, yeah, it's really good conversation, and yeah, I'm probably gonna head on as well now.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been awesome. So yeah, good one. What did you think of this setup today, like this?
Yeah, I liked it. It's I think everything is a learning experience.
Mm.
You can learn from anything and everyone. You know, there's something to learn, and I think having other people be a part of the conversation and watching the conversation kind of added a new dynamic, which I was very interested in, how we interacted, whether it changed the way that we spoke, how it affected or didn't affect us. You know, these are all very interesting things to me. So I am very grateful that you invited me on and gave me the opportunity to learn. So thank you.
Likewise. No, thank you for joining as well. And yeah, it is really smart, isn't it? This chat overlay thing that's going on the right hand side there. Yeah, it's I thought it was really cool how, you know, Julie came on, asked a question, and then all three of us took it in turns to be able to kind of give our perspective on it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I love
setup.
that. Yeah, and I loved how she gave the answer that I was looking for.
Yeah.
Because when I don't know, I was in an astrology class just before this, or group, and there's certain themes that play up at certain points in someone's life, astrologically, universally, and it's really your higher self asking you to make notes and to grow in a certain direction and giving you instruction or in tuning what you need to do. And I think these last couple of weeks has been understanding the dynamic of myself and North Node, my North Node being the 7th, an area that I need to learn from more, and you know the first being the South Node, which is where I come from. And I would, you know, like to understand that balance more. So yeah.
That's really interesting, because like the North Node, South Node is something that I've, you know, it's like one of those things. It's possibly one of the most valuable pieces of information in the chart I've found, personally. So yeah, 7th to 8th house. So obviously in your previous lifetime to this one, the focus was on first house energy, which was, God, how would that work out for a lifetime?
Well, it's quite you know, first house is all about self. And if my previous incarnations, what I've learned is, you know, probably indicates maybe that I've been in a position where I had a, you know, was able to express self.
Sure.
And in a way, like 7th house energy is looking at ways in which you can work and harmonize with other people. So it's an interesting dichotomy. If you've got the first house, it's where you came from, where you might have been imposing and exerting influence or power, whatever it is, you know, whatever context, perspective, and now having to understand the balance of bringing self into creation, but
into
also being balanced with, which is 7th house as well, with other people and learning and getting nourishment and value and learning and seeing the value in interacting with other people. Is a really interesting. I'm not doing the scales particularly well, but just unbalanced. But like the value in that is really interesting. So, you know, interactions like this, where I may have very strong views or very strong convictions in certain beliefs that I have, understanding how to portray that in a way that is balanced with other people's opinions, as opposed to be overpowering.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And also, because obviously the 7th house is like relationships, and then the first is self. So it's like self and then other, or self and other self. So yeah, it's so many different. That's what I like about astrology, right? It's so many different. You got like the 7th house, but there's so many different complexities and aspects to it. It's not just like one answer. For me,
yeah, for sure.
My chart is, I've got North Node in the 4th house, and I had a psychic reading, like channeled reading, a number of years ago now, and it was in my previous lifetime to this one, this was what I was told through the reading, was in my previous lifetime to this one, I was a businessman in New Zealand, and I had a wife and children, but I cared more about my clients than I did spending time with my family, because all I ever wanted was to give. I just wanted my family to have everything they ever wanted and needed, but really all they ever wanted was me and my time. And so that's why I have the North Node in the 4th house, because I need to rebalance that kind of career 10th house with, in this lifetime, kind of give more of that focus to family life. And it's so I can see that. And it's like how I see how I've set up everything in terms of my career and my business and stuff. It's like I can be abundant and like have time freedom, which is what I've always been wanting for the past few years. I didn't really, all I knew I wanted it for was just so I didn't have to work a 9-to-5 job. But then there's a much bigger aspect to it in the long run when it comes to a family if I had children. So it's amazing how these things play out, and like we can take almost anyone's chart and apply the chart to the person's actual life as it's played out. Be like, yep.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the sign of the 4th house, but I would also assume that the concept of home is still something that you're learning. What is home? What makes it home? Where is home? It's new territory for you. However, it's something that the 4th house is not just home; it's family. So family, but also roots and lineage. So where are you from? And coming to terms with the kind of intricacies of lineage, ancestry, and traits that you may have inherited. These are things that might take your interest, and it's certainly something that is something you're working through karmically. So everyone's is different, and again, where Saturn is will also be another layer to that, where you're learning. But yeah, it's very interesting. Everyone has their own roles, and I believe that there's synastry in astrology charts as well, which kind of magnetizes people to come together at certain points, as and when you need it. And I just find it very interesting how there is this platform and there's these spaces to be able to explore your own kind of spiritual development, and being able to see it from the lens of different people. Because I learn as much, of course, from other people and actually from the reactions of other people as well. Not in the sense of I shouldn't have said that, but just a case of that's interesting. I didn't see it from that perspective before. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, whether you know it or not. And sometimes it's unspoken.
That's totally. And then also being open-minded enough, like you're open-minded enough to be like, oh, okay, like I can see it from that angle, rather than just being like, I refuse to see it or refuse to accept it. Like that kind of open-mindedness goes a long way. So yeah, just in life. So.
Yeah, because there's a lot of pressures in life, and the word judgment has such strong connotations as well. There are certain words that when you say it, it's like, oh, twig, or it can do, root stuff. And that's, again, going back to what Julie was saying, is where the gold is where you have those roots, those triggers. That's where you need to go finding. Like if it triggers you, right? Or if a word or a situation, something triggers you, that is opportunity for growth. It's like you sit with that moment and say, what is going on here? Why am my aura being vibrating a certain way? What is left to be unresolved? Because all it is it's like a tuning fork, and it's like, I've hit your vibration, boom, that part of you is now, unease. It's not unease because it's just been vibrating a certain way. You need to heal that. So it's like, I guess it's really strange, but next time you see someone who's like shouting in your face, you could be like, if this is upsetting you, what can you learn from the situation?
Mm-hmm. Yes, very good. Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually taking that time as well to actually step back and say, hey, how is this affecting me? How is this affecting others? Just that in itself is such a big deal. It's, I mean, but we're on this path as we are right now because we came here and incarnated in this lifetime to be more sensitive, to purposely take more time out for ourselves and to process what we're feeling and to tap into our state of being in the moment more often than perhaps any other lifetime. So if we're meant to do that, we're going to do it anyway, naturally. So
yeah, but thank you, Zach, for today and everyone involved. And I'll speak to you soon.
Likewise, Mia. Thank you very much for coming on as well. So yeah, really good to see you, and yeah, really good conversation. I'm really pleased with this format, and we'll see about next time. So yeah, much love and to everybody. So.